What's up, millennials? In exchange for about 10 minutes of your time today, we're going to take a look at the valuation of STEM. STEM is a company that is going to be acquired by the SPAC that is trading under the ticker symbol STPK. Before we start, a few things first, very briefly. First of all, I have not done extensive research about this company. I'm just going to take a look at the valuation according to the SPAC and the company themselves. Also, don't trust me, verify me. I'm just documenting my journey here. I'm not a financial advisor. Third, Stock O'Clock. These are very short 1-minute videos that I post every single trading day with news about the stock market. And lastly, Discord. I created a free Discord channel for you to join. If you leave your name and email address at nesami.com/discord, you'll get access. You're already likely going to know this company, so I'm going to keep the introduction very short. So STEM is an AI-driven energy storage solutions company, and they focus on hardware as well, so the network of energy storage, but also the software to optimize the battery for performance, right, using artificial intelligence. There is no merger date yet, but they expect to complete the merger somewhere in Q1, so probably somewhere in February or March. Then with regards to the current pro forma valuation, we can see that as almost always, they use a base share price of $10 per share, and that there are going to be 135.4 million shares outstanding after the merger. So that means that we can take those two numbers and calculate the pro forma market cap, right? By taking the share price, $10, multiplying it by the amount of outstanding shares, 135.4 million, and then we get a pro forma current market cap, or not current, but based on the share price of $10 per share, it would be a market cap of about $1.3 billion. Then we can also say, okay, they're going to have $525 million of cash on their balance sheet. So then we can take that pro forma market cap of $1.35 billion, subtract the amount of net cash, and that is going to give us an enterprise value of $829 million, as also stated in the investor presentation. The thing is, however, if we go into TradingView, we can see that the price has already gone up quite a bit to $34.43. So that is the number that I put over here in my Excel sheet. And that means that we now have a current different pro forma market cap, because if we now take this number multiplied by the amount of outstanding shares after the merger, we're going to arrive at a pro forma market cap of almost $4.7 billion, which is quite a jump, of course. Then if we subtract the amount of net cash on their balance sheet, we are going to see that STEM currently has a pro forma enterprise valuation of $4.1 billion. So basically, now investors say, okay, STEM is worth $4.1 billion. But is that actually a fair valuation, right? Well, we are going to try to figure that out by comparing STEM to other similar companies out there, looking at their current valuations and seeing if STEM is now undervalued, overvalued compared to those other similar companies out there. We're going to use two things for that. We're going to use a certain revenue of 2022 in this case, and we're going to use a certain revenue multiple to calculate a fair valuation of STEM. Okay, we need two things. We need the revenue of 2022, and we need the revenue multiple. First of all, the revenue of 2022, we can see that they expect to have a revenue of $315 million in 2022. So that's a number we can already put in our calculator. And now the other thing we need to do is to take a look at the fair revenue multiple. Well, STEM and the SPAC looked at different similar companies out there to see what their kind of revenue multiples were for 2022, right? As we can see, they have a bunch of companies out here. So companies like Enphase, SolarEdge, SunPower, Sunrun, ChargePoint, Tesla even. So we're just going to take a look at what kind of revenue multiples these companies have. As we can see that SunPower has the lowest revenue multiple of them all, 2.6x. And we can see the highest revenue multiple at ChargePoint at 24x, quite a bit. We can also see that the median revenue multiple of all these 9 companies out here is 10.7x. And usually what SPACs do is to play a little bit with that median number, in this case 10.7x. But for some reason they looked at a not a very low, but a relatively low revenue multiple of 6x to 9x. I think personally this is a little bit on the low end, So we are going to take a little bit more of a subjective route, if you will, to calculate a fair valuation for STEM. So that means that our valuation is going to be higher than the valuation that is determined by STEM and the SPAC themselves. Okay, keep that in mind. It's important. Okay, so let's do something interesting. Let's say, okay, the median revenue multiple of these 9 companies that STEM is comparing themselves with is 10.7x. Okay. Let's give ourselves a range of 25% on the low end and 25% on the high end. Okay, cool. So we have 10.7x. 10.7x. We multiply that by 1.25 to get to the high end. And then we have 13.375x. So that is going to be our high revenue multiple, if you will. Now we're going to use this multiple and multiply it by the revenue of 2022, which, if you remember, was $315 million. So that is going to give us a valuation of about $4.2 billion, which is the number that I put over here, $4.2 billion for the high end, okay? Now we're going to do the same thing for the low end. Cool. So we have the median of 10.7x, 10.7x, very difficult. We multiply that by 0.75 to get to the low end, the 25% below that 10.7x. That gives us a low revenue multiple of 8.025x. If we take that low revenue multiple, multiply it by the amount of revenue in 2022, we're going to arrive at a low valuation of about $2.5 billion, right? Now we can also say, okay, we have a low valuation of 2.5 billion, we have a high valuation of 4.2 billion. So let's just take the average of these two and let's call that the midpoint valuation. So that is simply going to be the average of those two numbers, which is about $3.4 billion. Cool, so we now have our enterprise valuations, but we need to go a few steps further to determine a fair price per share, right? Cool, so we have these enterprise valuations, and to arrive first of all at a fair market cap, if you will, is to add the amount of net cash on their balance sheet. Because the enterprise value is what STEM is worth, but they're also going to have some cash on their balance sheet, which makes the market cap go up a little bit. We said they are going to have $525 million of cash on their balance sheet. So we simply need to take these enterprise valuations, add the amount of net cash. That is going to give us these market caps of $3 billion for the low end, 3.9 for the midpoint valuation, and 4.7 for the high end. Cool, so now we have these fair market caps. But now to determine a fair price per share, we simply need to take these market caps, divide them by the amount of outstanding shares after the merger, and that is going to give us these fair prices per share. So for the low end, we have $22.55, for the high end, $34.99, and the midpoint fair price per share would be $28.77. And if you remember the current price per share of $34.43, that means that STEM seems to be overvalued right now. So there you go. STEM currently has a fair midpoint price per share of $28.77, which could mean that STEM currently is a little bit overvalued. But keep in mind, of course, don't trust me, verify me. Check if my calculations are actually correct. And also take into account, and this is very important, we have been taking a look at assumptions, right? We have been taking a look at certain revenue numbers, a certain revenue multiple. We even added 25% and subtracted 25% on top of and below that revenue multiple. So these are all assumptions, and if you change one of these numbers, the entire calculation is going to change as well, and the fair price per share is going to change as well. I do hope that this video has provided you with some value, and if it has, please consider sharing this one with your friends who are also investing in SPACs like STEM. With that being said, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.